English translation, 179th contact. Friday, 22nd October, 1982, 16:15 hours.
You were very tired last night, which is why you remained lying down when I called you at 3:45 HRs.
I was completely broken and also had a fever. This is the first time that such a thing was happening to me while I was being called by you to a contact.
That is of correctness, and we also do not blame you for the incident.
Nice, thank you. However, you briefly said when calling me that you would give me a very positive message and explanation. What is it that is so very important?
It is of great importance and significance, both for us and for you.
Then fire away, my son.
We have finally succeeded in tracking down the allies of the Giza intelligences and have succeeded in coming into possession of them and all of their technical aids. As a result, facts arose which lead us to another action in relation to the group and the group members. We want and need to be fair, which is why we must pursue other ways than planned. On the other hand, we also feel caught in an imperfect action with respect to our actions against the group and various group members, because it is now apparent that their fallibility did not lie with them alone. By getting a hold of the Giza allies and their technical aids, we have encountered things and realizations that make us ashamed, for we ourselves did not expect such things, and also did not consider them with our premonitions or suppositions.
You are beating around the bush, my friend. So what then is actually happening now? Where did the special heinous ones keep themselves hidden, and who are they? And if I may express a presumption that arises in me from your words, then these jerks would seem to be, at least to a large extent, the cause of the mess that has arisen lately, or even during many of the last months.
That is of correctness. Your asset of recognizing connections from short statements does not deceive you, and you recognize everything correctly in this case. During the course of yesterday afternoon, on a small planet system, which we call the Charon system, and which is located on the far side of the Andromeda system, one of our search units identified impulses that were identical to those which emanate from the energy bell that is roofed over you. These
And how far away is it from the Earth?
2.8 million light-years, thus far on the other side of the Andromeda system. But now, hear what we found? Our unit followed these impulses to a small and very inhospitable planet, where metal domes were soon spotted, which were located in a large desert and from which the impulses were apparently being emitted. This quickly proved to be true, as defensive reactions of the dome stations appeared, which very quickly brought our unit under control and to a halt, after which the stations were then seized and the inhabitants were arrested. But it turned out that it was another faction of the Giza intelligences, who had to leave the Earth at a very early stage and who had formed a separate people, whom they call Saban. As it turned out, these folk have always been in constant touch with the real Giza intelligences remaining on the Earth, so it was easy for them and their allies to get in touch after the deportation through us, through a consciousness block, after which the Sabans then helpfully stepped in and gave the Giza intelligences every aid, while they themselves also actively cooperated and even pursued the same objectives since ancient times. In addition, they had not remained idle over many centuries, but they developed malignant technologies that enabled them for several months to send out, across millions of light-years, negative swinging waves that were polarized toward the smallest targets, which exhibit the characteristic that they take the available negative swinging waves of the same kind from the target and concentrate them into an immense ball of power, without the originators of the swinging waves noticing a reduction in their strength, and without the originators of the swinging waves losing anything of their own swinging waves.
Ah, I understand. Then the negative swinging waves of the believers, sectarians, and religious fanatics, etc., are probably those which are taken and concentrated into an enormous and destructive ball of power, right?
That is of correctness. But that is not enough, because as a result of the acquired technology, the Sabons have succeeded in having their swinging waves affect targets, located millions of light years away, in such a concentrated manner and exactly to the millimeter, such that they could locate and hit a fly on the Earth from their impulse location in the Quran system. Taking advantage of these, they attacked those group members, who are still, in certain parts, dependent on faith, and who indulge in unrealities and in uncontrolled emotions, etc., whereby these ones increasingly thought and acted illogically and improperly. But now, that should not and cannot be an excuse for the misconduct of the fallible ones, because already long ago, they should have overcome the conditions of such degeneration and instability, so that they could not be attacked by and could not be influenced by such powers any more. However, these fallible ones are not the only ones who were directly impacted by these Giza impulses, because the same thing also happened with many other human beings of the earth, who have been in contact with you within a nearer or further framework, since the days when Simyase first made contact with you. It is just that previously we knew nothing about all this, so we could do nothing about it. We also lacked the knowledge that several centuries ago, a Giza group had isolated itself and had departed from the earth in order to form their own new nation, which continued working, nevertheless, within the old framework and with the same goals, far from the earth and in constant connection with the remaining Giza intelligences. Only now has all of this become clear and perceptible to us, after we have apprehended the criminal elements, of whose existence we had no knowledge. And now, in order to remove the danger of these elements, we are forced to eliminate all the achievements of their efforts, whereby great difficulties arise nevertheless. The Sabons have so secured their installations that if we attempted to destroy them, a catastrophe, reaching far into the cosmos, would be triggered. This through a time effect, according to which, after a certain time, an immensely far-reaching and deadly reaction of destruction would be triggered on their planet if we simply destroyed the installations. So, in the course of yesterday afternoon, we had to use the special commands by which the existing danger could be averted. The time effect of the release of the disaster and destruction had to be reversed, so that the time becomes reduced to the starting point, whereby a diffusing then occurs. It has.
This would be, so to speak, a time bomb of which you speak, if I understand you correctly. In addition, your comments must mean that this time bomb cannot simply be defused, but that its ignition can only be stopped if the already started time period is stopped, and is then reversed back to zero time, whereby the danger can only be averted then, if the already started running time has arrived back at its starting point. This is clear to me so far, but I do not understand why you cannot destroy the installations if you can already stop the flow of the time period.
The whole thing is constructed so ingeniously that the catastrophe would be released even if the flow of the time period was just interrupted and the installations were destroyed. The only way to prevent the catastrophe is to reverse the time of expiry and make it effective in retrograde. Only then would the danger be averted, after which we could then perform the elimination. But we must count on the fact that we need to dissolve the entire planet into energy, because it has been so thoroughly developed and transformed that it is truly nothing more than an overkill bomb that, in its gigantic magnitude, would completely destroy everything within millions of kilometers if it would come to explosive effect. Nevertheless, this danger has already been averted by us, so that the time flow is now declining and will reach the starting point again on next Sunday at 14. 11 hours and 8 seconds, according to your time reckoning, after which we can then perform the elimination, but this will still take another 46 minutes to complete. Until that time, which must be clear to all of you, there will still exist the influencing, swinging wave impulses of a negative form, by which some group members are still unnoticeably influenced. So you can only count on the fact that at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, everything will be in order again, and no more interference can occur through the swinging wave impulses. But from that point on, the fallible group members will be fully responsible again for their own actions. So then, everything will become valid, as I explained it to you on the 4th of October. So until then, we practice forbearance and regard all that has happened since the 4th of October as being undone in reference to an evaluation. And this goes for everything and for each and every concern that has occurred since that time, including what happened in connection with Thomas. But now, I still want to mention by name those who are vulnerable in terms of foreign influences of any kind, and, thus, even to those negative swinging wave impulses of the Giza intelligences. In a very special way, the following are vulnerable in this respect, without them being aware of any influences upon themselves: Ingrid, extremely vulnerable Ferdinand, extremely vulnerable Jacobus, who must be named as the next most vulnerable Thomas Louis, your wife, Ava Gilgamesha, Cornelia Maria Bernadette. Fortunately, not all of the named are accessible in a strong form, but rather many only in weaker measures, as for example Cornelia and Maria, as well as Gilgamesha, for they behave more passively to such swinging waves without them being able to be strongly influenced. But vulnerability is also expressed with them, such as with Cornelia, who can be misled by the influences of such swinging wave attacks, whereby her objectivity decreases. Jacobus reacts in the most vulnerable form because his mind is still too focused on individualism instead of on solidarity, whereby he isolates himself inside of himself and blocks against the rest of the group members, through which no united assistance can be given to him by them, which is why he can be attacked by negative swinging waves of all kinds as a person alone and in a strong form, and can be enormously impaired in his doing, thinking, and acting. By excluding himself and being alone, he fends off all assistance and becomes the individual and single point of attack, who can become fully affected and influenced in all his strength. If he would move more in the direction of equality and community, then he would earn for himself a lot less attacks, as this also appears in a less severe case with the others, whom I have mentioned before. Thus, in this respect, they also are not yet out of the woods, but they are truly much better off than Jacobus. Only Bernadette runs on a similar track as Jacobus, but this only occurs sporadically, according to which she must also make a change for the better and fight this. Through such swinging wave impulse attacks, which also emanate from the Earth humans themselves, but in a different form than what is the case with the Giza intelligences, the fallible ones are also always vulnerable, in a grossly susceptible manner, to ignore all laws and recommendations. So equality and equal rights also find no progress and no fulfillment here.
And what about Ingrid and Ferdinand?
Also, with regard to them, I still would have addressed a few things from my side because they both are only in that phase of development which slowly leads them to become acquainted with the laws and recommendations of the creation, without understanding them for the time being. Basically said, they are still in the lowest level of evolution, when the rest of the group members are used as a comparison. Therefore, Ingrid and Ferdinand, in terms of learning, require the greatest attention because they have to learn and recognize the basic truths for the first time. So they are on a level that has already been far exceeded by all the rest of the group members, including those who have recently stepped in. But this means that they still lack any defenses against negative swinging wave impulses of all kinds, which is also why their vulnerability and their enthusiasm toward false actions are very great. It is the characteristic of this phase that the know-it-all quality is very pronounced, as this is also expressed with Ingrid and Ferdinand. In addition, an illogical obstinacy and an inability to understand logical consequences and actions are linked with this.
We could determine this, yes. Thus also the temporary exclusion for 2 years. But what should happen now with the two of these group members, after what you have stated in relation to the swinging wave impulses of the Giza intelligences? I think that actually an equal right should apply to everyone, even if the probation exclusion has arisen before the 4th of October.
You speak of our thoughtfulness, which we brought to application in the case of Thomas and all the incidents. Yes, I would have just come to speak of that. Even for Ingrid and Ferdinand, it will be valid, for our analyses, which were quickly carried out to see who was attacked by the swinging wave impulses, have clearly shown that both were very strongly attacked by them, yet to a much greater extent than with Jacobus. In particular, Ingrid is like a huge magnet for such swinging wave impulses, which is why at that time the forces were able to concentrate themselves so highly in an unusually dangerous form that is well known to you, and could penetrate into the center. The reason for this with Ingrid is that she is still tremendously fond of faith and builds up no defense against it. She even constantly creates imaginations which still very strongly promote and build up her magnetic force of attraction to such negative swinging waves. Nevertheless, we must also be fair in this case, which is why both the period of probation and the temporary membership for 2 years, according to the agreed framework, should be repealed. But this means for both of them that, as of next Sunday, they must fully satisfy their duties again, as these were determined by their promises. This means for both that they have to be active in the center again every weekend, from Saturday until Sunday evening, as it was previously the case. You will still have to clarify here as the times for this may be divided. So now, Ingrid and Ferdinand, as of the 30th of October, are to be used again for full employment.
But Ingrid has just given birth to a child.
That is no obstacle, for 10 days of time and rest after giving birth are thoroughly enough, so she too can fulfill her responsibilities again. This re-employment of the two, however, will bring you additional work at other times because you will have to talk to them about different things, which will require many hours. Moreover, you will have to pursue a special course with Ingrid, under my instruction, which should free her from her delusion of faith, because only in that manner can she one day become a valuable core group member. But this will be doomed to fail if the consequences of the course are not fruitful. For the time being, Ingrid is no longer allowed to perform the meditation in the Sohar Center, just as Margaret was not before the damages were removed. Sissy also falls under this exclusion from the Sohar Center because also with her, strange things of a dependence on faith and confused ideas, etc., stir within her. But how deeply these factors are rooted within her, we cannot determine, so you have to do this for us when you make the preliminary contract for the meditation and the crystals, etc., like with Margaret. Should a success of a preliminary contract not be possible with her, or should it involve greater difficulties, which is to be feared, unfortunately, then the given instruction of the exclusion from the Sohar Center applies. Here, too, the time for a remediation applies, according to which a use of the Sohar Center may then be considered again. Hannah also falls under this provision, but she is already working on removing her damage as you told me. If she obeys my advice given to her through you, then she will remove her damage within a short time. But she must also be careful to fight against certain factors, referring yet to a certain dependence on faith and a surreal imagination in relation to certain events. And so, we have now arrived at the subject of the Sohar Center, concerning which I still have to give the following explanation. In the future, the Sohar Center should not have to be cleaned by us anymore, so the following rules must be strictly obeyed. 1. Non-core group members are not allowed in the Sohar Center. Thus, non-core group members are also not even allowed in the Sohar Center for the meditation. 2. The Sohar Center may only be accessed and used in psychically flawless condition and without any meditation or swinging wave-impairing illnesses, such as increased body temperature due to not feeling well, etc. 3. Those contributing to the meditation exercise may only fulfill their relevant duty if they are in perfect psychic condition, and also if they exhibit no swinging wave-impairing illnesses, etc., etc. 4. The existing ordinal rules regarding the entry and use of the Sohar Center must be strictly obeyed. 5. In the Sohar Center, there may never be any sleeping. 6. In the Sohar Center, no thoughts may be cultivated and maintained in any wise. Only meditative activity is of correctness. 7. More notice must be given to physical cleanliness, because a clean body for the meditation in the Sohar Center is of importance. 8. Bodily cleanliness includes the removal of hair from the genitalia, whereon great attentiveness must be used. Entering and using the Sohar Center in physical uncleanliness of this form must be prohibited from now on, and a cleaning like this should not be older than 3 days. 9. Those contributing to the meditation exercise should wear clean clothes and should not wear their work clothes. 10. The stay of the introducer. Believe this to be the one who may be an initial helper to the new meditators. Given that meditations are longer than 3 minutes, in the Sohar Center meditation room may amount to no more than 3 minutes each time. 11. Neither introducer nor meditation practitioner may speak during the entry and stay, as well as during the exit from the Sohar Center meditation room. 12. Neither introducer nor meditation practitioner may enter or use the Sohar Center meditation room in an overtired state. With that, my friend, I have once again come to the conclusion for today, and I would just like to say in closing that now, that condition of ours prevails, which I mentioned to you on the 4th of October. We hope that future issues and efforts arise joyfully and successfully, and that we never have to issue any more complaints. In addition, we try to find any other and better ways in order to be able to form everything correctly and still be able to pull it all off. Maybe as a result of this, new behavioral possibilities of ours will also arise, according to which we would no longer have to meet renewed offenses with harsh conditions and then have to see these be fulfilled.
That would be a joy, man, oh man.
That would also make us very joyful and happy. Therefore, let's hope that also in future time the entire order is kept individually and collectively by the group members. This should also apply in relation to coexistence, and with respect to the nearly drooling venom of some female group members, who fall upon one another like hyenas out of futility. Particularly, Bernadette must be very changeable in this, as well as your wife, who usually goes along with her immediately and lets her temper break through. This should all finally come to an end because this is not normal behavior of human beings, let alone of animals, which do not know such behavior. And in truth, the person should stand far above every animal and should never do things or display a behavior and action as well as a thinking of the day, which is devoid of all reason, all decency, all love, and all knowledge, and which scoffs at every observance of law and order, which an animal, and it yet being the lesser, would never think of doing, not even if it were capable of true thinking. And finally, should the group members of the free community of interests not be attractive throughout and also be an example to those who will be taught by them?
Man, your words in the ear of those who need this.
That should be so.
You become downright sanctimonious, my boy.
That is not my intention. I only spoke in this manner because you have just now spoken, perhaps unconsciously, like Emmanuel at that time. Your words in the ear of those who need them.
Oh, that really was not my intention.
Even so, but still listen to the following from me. You heard about the provisions of a new form or an additional form for the Sohar Center, and maybe you wondered in particular about the physical cleanliness. In connection with this, I still have to submit to you all sorts of incidents in the center afterward, but they are not exactly suitable to be mentioned officially in our conversation. It just would not exactly make a good impression on the outside, which is why these explanations will be given apart from the official ones, but they should be explained by you, in certain parts, to the group members. Nevertheless, these should be explained in an open form yet, for it concerns one of the new rules and is of great importance, namely that there are still some group members who do not exercise their physical cleanliness in the necessary form, as it is of importance. Thus, they still bear the impurity in the genital area. This should no longer appear any more because the knowledge about the cleanliness of the body, etc., should have already been a self-evident fact to the group members for some time. Finally, I still have to mention the new group members, who should be incorporated into your Sunday meditation in the future, which is why you must take care and have everything ready for them so that they can be admitted into the meditation circle, which you should take up again on the 31st of October.
But how does that then rhyme with the regulation that new members may only enter the center after 6 months then? Because of the crystals, they would yet be able to go into the center.
You can rest assured because for this purpose, I will align the neutralization beam toward the lower area of the meditation couch, so that any of the enclosed false swinging waves will be neutralized immediately if such appear. A spare beam will likewise neutralize the lower place, but in a somewhat weaker form. With the new members and to this end, it will be necessary, then, that you personally carry out the introduction of the same.
But I would prefer it if I did not have to do that. That can actually also be done by all the others.
For the new members, you will have to take this trouble upon yourself for better or worse, for they have not yet progressed so far in terms of the meditative exercises and in terms of the necessary behavior such that they can be monitored by the usual and certain introduction. This is also true for those who can no longer use the Sohar Center for the time being, but who may still be admitted to the meditation circle and who should also be duty-bound to do so.
Good. Then there is probably nothing else left for me.
That is of correctness, and it is also necessary to ensure that all provisions concerning the Sohar Center are noted. And I determine Ava for this, who, in each case, has to make all those who are uninitiated aware of the ordinal rules and of the other regulations relating to this and has to instruct them. And with that, my friend, I consider our conversation for today to be concluded, if you do not still have another question.
I have none, perhaps, or maybe next time. Take care, and kind regards to all, and give everyone my thanks for their dedication and for their assistance. And I mean this in every respect of the understanding demonstrated toward us, and also in terms of the Giza jerks and their elimination. And I think that I may also express these thanks on behalf of every single group member. Then bye now, and until we meet again.
Goodbye.